Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Talking About Birds, the only Cardinal podcast more tapped out than Bill DeWitt. My name is Nate Heininger, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Ben Samorka.
Hi, everyone.
If you have an idea for the opening bit, tweet us at Talk About Birds. Hambone, how you doing? We're deep into the new year at this point. How you feeling? How are things in your part of the world?
Killing it. Obviously 10 out of 10, maybe 11 out of 10, actually.
Yeah. Wow.
Need I say more? I mean, look at me. I look great. I feel great.
Wearing a loose fitting tie-dye shirt.
Everything's just coming up me, man. This is the year of Ben. I think, I know we're only 10 days into it, but I think we can call it right now. Sorry.
Let's just lock it up right now.
Boom.
The year of Ben.
Yeah. How about you?
Pretty upset that I've entered into the year of Ben. Frankly.
Yes.
Not feeling great.
Yeah.
But you know what is making me feel better? Is apparently the Victor Scott 2 music.
Yeah.
I guess we should have already known about this considering our mutual interest in music, but and our mutual interest in Victor Scott. But I learned, I think,
worlds colliding, right?
Yeah, the same time as you did, that he has quite the off the field talent.
Yeah, I got to look up the. I'm trying to look up the I think is Dan Lorilla, contributor to
the Fangraphs.
David Lorilla. I don't want to take any credit for this, but yeah, Fangraphs and David did an awesome little sit down interview Q&A with Victor Scott too. And it was made public that him and his like best buddy from growing up are like. They make hip hop music, and this podcast, and I think some people who listen to it had a recent run-in with another former Cardinals music career, and it was Wanting. And I'll couch this with like I said, I listen to some country music, which is true, but I'm a far bigger hip hop fan. I think
right.
If you got into my head, hip hop's probably my favorite genre of music. It's what I consume most. So. Yeah, maybe I'm a little biased or a little more primed to accept Victor Scott's project over Mr. Adam Wainwright's country ballad about being
retiring as a St. Louis Cardinal.
It was really him kind of bragging, though, right? Like,
yeah, kind of
like braggadocious, sad country. But
I mean, if you didn't know anything about him, you wouldn't know that he was bragging. But if you know that he's retiring as a St. Louis Cardinal pitcher, then yeah.
Yeah, I guess that's fair. But so yeah, Victor Scott, he's a rapper. His rap name is Argo, nice. Which is funny if you read the interview how he got that name. He saw the sign on a Wells Fargo building and said, "Oh, I'm going to take the F off of that. Argo, that's a cool name," which is just funny to me. But
not named after the movie.
Nope,
Argo
or the show Fargo, or yeah, really anything. He just liked the way it sounded.
One part of a bank name.
One part of a bank, like a quarter of a bank name.
Yeah.
But all that being said, I listened to, he's got an EP, solo EP. He's got a EP with his good buddy. And it was like shockingly good to me. I thought that he sounded cool on it. If you are a hip hop fan and haven't listened to it yet, it was like a blend of like Young Thug and Juice WRLD, but it's kind of sad boy rap, which I love the braggadocious rap. I love the, Money and Chains and all that stuff. But, yeah, it was kind of like
Money and Chains and all that stuff.
so on and so forth
too. Yes, of course.
The whitest man in America talking about hip hop
from a basement in Denver. Yes, Money and Chains. Of
and
course,
those beats they sure do get your toe tapping.
Big butts, etc.
But no, he's like talking about like being in love with a girl and like unrequited love, and it's very sweet, and I liked it. It was shockingly good. Like I said, if you have not listened to him, go listen to Argo on Spotify or whatever. He's cool.
Yeah, and I'm also a big hip hop fan, though I would never claim to be as knowledgeable or into it as much as Ben. I know that's like your big thing when it comes to music, and I also know, like, considering we've been roasting Adam Wainwright for a while, like, we would say if we also thought this was not very good too.
For sure. I expected it to be bad.
Yeah. Well, anytime you hear, check out this mixtape, it's not, you're not primed to enjoy it. But yeah, it's pretty legit.
So it begs the question, Nate, if Victor Scott, or when he makes Major League roster, and he goes up to take his first at bat, does he use one of his own songs as his walk-up song? And if so, is that cool or bad?
I think no, he won't. But I do think it would be cool.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a pretty baller move, honestly.
Yeah, get the word out. People are vibing with it. Maybe they'll Shazam it or whatever. Yeah, I also don't think he won't, but it would be cool.
I don't think he won't.
I don't think he will. I won't think he do.
I won't think he do. There we go.
Nailed it.
Victor Scott. I won't think he do.
It's a good show. Good show.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it. I think it's cool to see these guys with this sort of talent, and you're also like, damn it, how are you good at everything?
That part is annoying. Yeah. What the hell?
But yeah, I also wonder what I thought you were going to say there. They played Adam, like a minute and a half of Adam Wainwright's song on a national broadcast. Will they do that for Victor Scott too?
Well, I hope that they do. I will point out that his music is a little more explicit than what Mr. Adam Wainwright was putting out. So maybe they can find an edited version or something like that. But they should. That'd be great. Why not?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, yeah, it does make me wonder, like, we are getting to the point where a lot of these guys that are at this age, like the minors and rookies and whatnot, people who were born in like 2003, 2004, full access to things like SoundCloud and the tools to make music like this. Is it actually the reality that an absolute ton of these minor league players all have mixtapes, and we just only have heard about Victor Scott's because he's a Cardinal and it's kind of good and he's getting a lot of hype right now? Or is it really a standout for him?
That's a great question. We will maybe I'll do some research into that and see if we can find an actual answer to that. That's a very funny question, though. I don't know. And that begs the question: when's the Talking About Birds mixtape coming out? I mean, what we have the equipment.
I mean, absolutely. I've got
lack of talent hasn't stopped us before, so
that's a great point. We could put out a mixtape that is as good as this podcast for sure.
100%.
I do wonder, will Wayno and Victor Scott collab? One of those, what do they call that? Hick hop?
I know. Yeah. I know Morgan Wallen and Lil Durk, they did some music with each other, and not for me, not my thing, but people like it. So good. That's good.
Well, it's good to know Victor Scott has a career to fall back on if he can't have the power like we're all hoping that he can.
For real, yeah.
Yeah. And if we had some interesting data come out over the last week too. So if you make your way to a game here this summer, you can contribute to this data. Ben, you want to sort of walk us into it?
Well, yeah, there's this post online this week that I thought was interesting. And of course, whenever I see something like this, I always think about it through a Cardinals specific lens. And when you have DeWitt, we're going to talk about this in a minute. When you have DeWitt talking about not spending money, this is where my mind always goes. But anyways, there was some research that came out around the average fan spending on alcohol per game. And the Cardinals were actually fairly low on that list, lower than I would think as somebody who's grown up in St. Louis. Like, we're like a pretty good drinking town. But a lot of kids go to these games, maybe that's kind of lowering the average. But anyways, what we learned was that the Cardinals fans on average spend $28 on alcohol per game. And that's across the board. So that if you're a child, an adult, or of age or not, it's all kind of spread out. So that's the average spend. So then I was curious, okay, that's not nothing. That's actually more than the average price ticket to get into Busch Stadium, which the average ticket spin to get in is a little over 15. It's like in between $15 and $16 somewhere. So I was like, well, that's significant enough to think about. The Cardinals drew over 3 million fans last year. So just doing some really stupid, quick arithmetic, it was about $90.75 million just in alcohol sales for the Cardinals last year.
Pretty good.
Which is wild. And it's also, I mean, I know they're not making 100% profit on that, but they're making mostly profit on that because beer costs nothing and they're charging, what is it, 10 or 11 bucks for beer.
Yeah.
So I just think about that in the context of where the payroll is at. That is, let's say if we're giving the DeWitts credit, let's say that's 45 million bucks. That is a huge chunk of the Cardinals payroll. And, you just like to see, if you put that into account with the ticket sales and all the food sales and everything else, not even talking about TV money, like the Cardinals just print cash. Yeah. And for them to cry poor or say that the situation is murky, it just drives me up a wall. I know I'm not breaking any news here or anything like that, but I did think that 90 million bucks was an interesting number, an interestingly large number.
It is. The economics of baseball are wild. We get little glimpses into it. Like we saw the Braves, they're required to open up their books, and we learned just how profitable teams can be when you've got all these extreme revenue streams. And and St. Louis was top 5 in attendance last year, and like consistently is. And you think of a beer is cheap to make. Think about the nachos that you're paying like $9 for. Right. It's like a cup of that cheese and some chips. So obviously they're making a ton of money on top of the Cardinals in specific, the ballpark village and all that. It just all fuels into this like mega corporation. That's why the DeWitts, I think they paid like $180 million for the team. And it's now worth $2.1 billion. Just the value of the team. And it's because of that. I mean, it's an extremely profitable business. Now, like what they're arguing is often that the on the ground dynamics, it's worth $2.1 billion, but that doesn't mean we just have like $2.1 billion, which is true. That is not how money works. However, when you have an asset of that value, you basically have unlimited access to funds. Any and every bank in the universe is going to give you whatever money you want at whatever interest rate you want, because they know you are the top of this money printing machine that is Major League Baseball, and in particular the St. Louis Cardinals. I was surprised though that St. Louis was so low on the beer drinking thing.
I know.
I'm assuming this is something that every city kind of feels, so I don't want to be like St. Louis is inherently like different or whatever, but I do think St. Louis views itself as a beer drinking city.
The foundation of the city is the largest beer manufacturer in the world.
Yeah. And we have extremely loose liquor laws compared to a lot of other states because of Anheuser-Busch being located here. It's literally Busch Stadium, even though like that has that's ubiquitous at this point. I don't know how many people are thinking about Anheuser-Busch when you say Busch Stadium, but like, it's ingrained there. It's everywhere. So I was a little surprised. My only guess is that it's so fucking expensive. And most people in Missouri and the St. Louis region, it's not a super high, high earning part of the country. And so, those like $12 beers, you're like,
well, I mean,
I'm going to get one.
Real Cardinals fans, you maybe get a beer or two in the stadium, but then you go to patios and you drink until you can't see straight anymore. That's what a real Cardinals fan does.
You get in a little van that'll take you to the or take you to the stadium and back. And they give you beer in the van. You're back there sitting in between 4 people smoking cigarettes, and you're having a great time.
Hell yeah.
It's an experience I've had.
It sounds good. Oh, it makes me miss baseball.
All the windows closed in the van for some reason. Sure, we're all just smoking in here,
ripping cigs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Makes me miss baseball.
I am deep in the depths of missing baseball right now. I'm like, just to have something to interact with, I'm like getting deep into my fantasy baseball teams, and it's just reading baseball player names over and over and over, and looking at like projected stats and stuff. It's like, it's part of why I like that, because it gives me something to do when there's no baseball, on top of this whole fucking podcast that we do.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think I get a good chunk of my fill from this lovely show, but yeah, I get it.
Quick plug: we have scheduled our first Bird Scored movie night. So if you're interested in watching a baseball movie with us, consider joining the Bird Scored. So
yeah,
we're finding ways, but we are just under a month from pitchers and catchers reporting. Right before we started recording, the official date was announced, February 14th, Valentine's Day.
cute.
Pitchers and catchers will be reporting. How exciting is that?
It's the most romantic day in baseball. It makes sense that it would fall on Valentine's Day. And yeah, I was just looking at the numbers. The day this show comes out, 43 days until the first Cardinals spring training game. So it's all coming. It's going to be quick. It's only a few episodes, really. We're going to be there in no time.
Yeah, absolutely. And to continue sort of plugging the show, our 100th episode is coming up, and we're planning something fun for that.
Yeah.
So no spoilies just yet, but stay tuned for episode 100, and we're going to start getting into predictions, and we've been talking projections over the last 2 weeks with Steamer and Fangraphs and Zips and whatnot, and more of that's coming out as we just get closer and closer, and it becomes more and more real that the Cardinals are probably done this offseason. So
we'll see, I guess. Yeah.
But in the last week, there's actually been some really I'd say one massive move and one very interesting move. So let's start with the huge one. Arguably from a 10,000 foot view, maybe the most important moment of this offseason. Something that you and I and a lot of people, we were not particularly unique in this take, but we really were interested in the Cardinals pursuing adding Chaim Bloom, former Pobo of Red Sox.
I thought he was a CBO. Wasn't he a CBO?
Was he CBO? They're all just making
keep
up
talking.
titles.
I'll look at it.
Yeah, they're all just making up stupid titles for themselves anyway, because they don't want to promote each other.
Yes,
but
yeah, he was a CBO.
Okay, chief baseball operator.
Yeah.
Of the Red Sox, former executive of the Tampa Bay Rays, considered one of the best minds in baseball. Although, the Red Sox, it didn't necessarily end well, but that may be more of the Red Sox problem than him. We can talk about that. Anyway, the Cardinals have hired him as an advisor to our Pobo, to John Mozeliak. And I'll go first. I think it's incredible. I'm a huge fan of this move. We've been hoping for it for a long time. We've been saying the Cardinals need a legit outside voice in the organization. It's cool we got Daniel Descalso back. It's cool we keep adding these like former Cardinal greats, but there's obviously some fundamental flaws in the organization. And when you looked around the landscape, Kim Ing from the Marlins, there was a couple of these people that just like seemed like they'd be perfect ads for the Cardinals. And frankly, I did not expect it to happen. I was like, if I was stack ranking what I thought was likely to happen, I would have put the Cardinals signing Yamamoto over the Cardinals hiring Bloom, and for a number of reasons. One, just because they've never done anything like this. I think it's like the first time in like 30 years, that there's like a person at this level has had no experience in the St. Louis Cardinal organization. So we have no ground to stand on for, assuming this would happen. And then two, like, why would he necessarily take this role? Like, what's in it for him?
Yeah.
I would assume that there were a lot of people that were, lobbying for his services. So I just didn't think it was going to happen. And it has, which I think is really, really, really cool. If you look at the Boston Red Sox farm system, he's all over it, and they have an incredibly strong farm system right now. I think depending on how they deploy him, and also his willingness to actually speak like hard truth to Mozeliak and all that will be really what determines if this is successful or not. But ultimately, I'm very excited. So I've rambled here for a minute. Ben, how are you feeling about it?
I agree with you. I think it is. I think it's the most important offseason move that the Cardinals have made in this year, and I don't think it's that close. Everything that you said, I agree with, and I think his. So the reason it did happen, right, is because him and Mozeliak have some type of undetermined relationship that maybe we'll learn more about. Maybe this is just like rich guy winter meetings. They like to hang out and have cocktails. I don't know what it is, but Mozeliak said that they had a working relationship going on. So whatever, it happened, and that's great. And I think that if Mozeliak is still king emperor for the Cardinals, so if he didn't want it to happen, I don't think it would happen. So I think those are all good things. I think what you said about the Red Sox is really important. Look at what he did to the minor league player depth there. It's huge. He absolutely turned that team around, even though John Henry, the owner of the Red Sox, was kind of hamstringing him and kind of going back and forth on what he wanted the team to do. And then, putting these weird limits on him and then being disappointed. And the Red Sox had a weird, like the way they handled Xander Bogaerts was weird. The way they handled Mookie Betts was weird. They had some weird interactions. And I think it's, some of that's Chaim Bloom's fault, but a lot of that's John Henry's fault. But all that being said, what's most important is that this guy, he's only 40 years old. He spent 15 years in the Rays front office and essentially worked his way from a intern into the vice president of baseball, which is, first off, incredible. And you just go down his resume. He was the one who wrote the Rays way as far as player development for the Rays in 2008. A lot of people regard him as one of the best in the business for developing starting pitchers. As you and I have said multiple times, that's probably the number one organizational failure.
Not even probably. It's got to be by a mile, right? Like all you have to do, and I've done this thought experiment a number of times, but if you're questioning that validity, think to yourself, what's the last ace pitcher the St. Louis Cardinals developed from the ground up? And I would love to hear your answer because I kind of feel like you have to go back into the 90s.
I think it's Wainwright.
Yeah, but even Wainwright, you could argue
because the Braves connection.
Yeah,
okay. I'll keep thinking about it.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. It's rough.
It's been a while, and look at the Red Sox. Brian Bello, they've had guys pop out of nowhere during Chaim Bloom's time. But you look at what the Rays were doing. His focus was on pitching development. Look at the pitchers that the Rays were spinning out from those 15 years that he was involved. And I'm not saying it's a 100% him, but
nothing ever is a trend. But and in baseball, like it really is a lot of the guy at the top, the one that's making these kind of final decisions. Now that decision is a culmination of a lot of people's work, so you really don't want to erase individuals, but like it is, a lot of who's your scouting director, who's your, Pobo, etc.
You also, we criticize the Cardinals for being slow, maybe being not Luddites, but just a little slow to tech and stuff like that. And something that they were slow to. I mean, you look around the league and damn near every team has somebody from the Rays front office sprinkled throughout, either running their team or GM, or they just have them sprinkled throughout. And there's a reason. It's because they do it better than anyone else. And the Cardinals now have that guy, and they probably have one of them, other than, maybe Andrew Friedman, who is probably the best front office executive of the past, 20, 30 years or so. He is well regarded. Chaim Bloom is well regarded. Not to mention, if Mozeliak is looking for an exit strategy, and if the DeWitts prefer to get to know Chaim Bloom or whoever is going to be filling that next Pobo role before actually handing him the keys, this is a perfect way to do this. Be an advisor, get to know how the Cardinals work, get to spend time with the DeWitts, have the dinners, rub the elbows, all that stuff. And in a year or 2 years, when Mo does want to hang it up, you have this young guy with a sterling pedigree, and hopefully a record of high performance, with the Cardinals organization, and it's a no brainer. And
Yeah.
I think it makes all the sense. Like I already said this, but I think it's the most important move the Cardinals have done. I do think it's important for Cardinals fans to not expect the pitching development to just change overnight.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but hey, maybe in spring training we see Chaim Bloom and his team and his intelligence talking to Tink Hintz, talking to Gordon Graceffo. Maybe he has adjustments. Maybe he has a Ray's way of doing things, and maybe we do see a little increased prospect development. Maybe we do see pay benefits sooner or later. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think everything about it is great, and I'm yeah.
Yeah.
I like
Same.
if I could buy a Chaim Bloom jersey, I would.
I'm also curious. This is purely speculation, but the Cardinals have made some moves with the Red Sox this
Yes,
offseason.
and the Rays.
Yeah. And this sort of relationship, this working deal that's been struck between Bloom and the Cardinals doesn't happen overnight. I assume that this has been, for a while now. And who knows? It'd be interesting if he's had a hand, like unofficially, in some of those deals. It's almost like a trial, so to speak.
Hey, this Ryan Fernandez kid, I went out and got him. Here's the reason why I did. I think you could probably get him for X. Hey, Mo, pull
Yeah.
the trigger. I mean, yeah, that
Who knows?
conversation happens.
I'm sure. Like,
Yeah.
if you're hiring Chaim Bloom, and you are also working on trades with the Red Sox, you're talking to Chaim Bloom about those trades, I'm assuming, So
Yeah,
it's very interesting. And it is a good signal to those of us who have been really concerned about the Cardinals and their blinders, and their inability to say there is something wrong with the way we're doing things. And, I don't think you make this move if you don't actually believe that you need help.
Yeah.
So
Agreed.
it's a good sign. You won't hear the Cardinals say that, not in that way, but I think we all know that's the case. So pretty cool. We'll see where it goes. Is he the future president of baseball operations? What is Gersh doing? We know Yachty is there too. So that's interesting. Like, I'm really hopeful that like Bloom and Yachty have an interesting balance, with Yachty's eye for pitching and quality too. Like, it's it could be pretty cool.
It's hard not to be excited.
Yes. Yep. So there was another move, which is funny. Big picture, it's not that crazy of a move, but Palacios was like the one fun thing that happened at the end of last year. So I think people and it's with the Rays. So people are having a sort of outsized response to this trade, as far as being sad about it and being concerned about the future. But Richie Palacios was traded to the Tampa Bay Rays for Andrew Kittredge, a 34-year-old reliever who will be a free agent at the end of this year.
Yeah.
So Ben, what's your initial thought on this trade?
I think you're giving up, like, the Cardinals aren't going to win this trade on like just pure value, right? Like, Richie Palacios was essentially gotten from the Guardians for nothing, for a little bit of cash. It was 5 or 6 more years of control. He's 26. He tapped into a little bit of power last year. He had a .516 slugging percentage. I highly doubt he will carry that for even any time next year or the preceding years. But he started to show some things to be excited about. And I understand why Cardinals fans are feeling a way about this kind of move, right? But the fact of the matter is, the team, as it was constituted with Tyler O'Neill and Richie Palacios, made no sense. You cannot run a team with 18 outfielders. And the position player group is already stout, already built out. He is an extra player. So I think while I said what I said, I do think that it's pretty slick for the Cardinals to turn an extra piece that they don't need, that they essentially picked up for free, into a player who we can expect can be a late inning reliever tomorrow. Now, Andrew Kittredge is never going to demand a lot of money. If the Cardinals want to re-sign him, obviously that's their prerogative to do if they want to keep him in the fold. But this is a guy that you can roll out in the 7th or 8th inning, 6th, 7th, 8th, anywhere in there. He is a sinker slider guy. He has a next level sinker. And when he's healthy, he should produce ground balls, almost 50% of the at-bats against him. We expect the Cardinals infield defense and defense at large to be pretty decent next year. I think it all makes a lot of sense. It is a bit of a gamble that he hasn't been super healthy. They are expecting, things to turn out well, and
hoping to win.
And that's fine. But yeah, I think all in all, it's a good deal. And I don't think you could have gotten much more for Palacios. So here we are.
Yeah, I went back and forth on this, but ultimately, I'm kind of landing in that camp of like, I think this is a really good move for the Cardinals. Like you said, like they needed to trade. We had to remove some outfielders. Already did the Tyler O'Neill one. Palacios, you and I were slotting in as maybe the 4th outfielder, but that's more likely, Carlson. And so now Palacios, your 5th outfielder, and other than 100 at bats with the major league team last year, like before that, this guy was just really considered sort of a, triple A, maybe quad A type player. He's 26 years old. He wasn't even going to get a shot in the majors for most teams in MLB if it wasn't for the fact that the Cardinals were completely out of it. So the Cardinals flipped what is very likely. Now he seems like a great guy and I wish him all the best, but what is very likely the best 100 at bats at the major league level of Palacios' career. They flipped that for Andrew Kittredge, who in 2021, now that was a long time ago for a reliever, but in 2021 was one of the best relievers in baseball.
Right.
And had a, all-star appearance, all that. And then he had Tommy John, which sucks. But that's also at this point a relatively predictable injury and one that guys have and can come back from. And assuming they have a normal rehab time and they look good upon return from the rehab, like you can generally be pretty comfortable about their health and their recovery from Tommy John. And that's exactly what Andrew Kittredge had. Now, he only pitched like 11 innings last year, but still what you're looking for is someone coming back from the injury and having some of the same qualities that they had before that injury. And it's exactly what happened. And then he has a full off season to, completely rehab or just have a standard off season. So we can reasonably expect. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as he was in 2021. He is only getting older. He fits right in with our pitching staff.
Yeah.
But like, I think he's going to be pretty good. I think it will not be surprising to me if Andrew Kittredge ends up being one of the team leaders in holds. Him, Gallegos, if there's no other major additions to the bullpen, I think you're starting out with Kittredge as like your 7th inning guy, maybe even 8th if Helsley or Gallegos falter. So
yeah. And I think like with that power sinker that he's bringing, if you want to bring him in the 6th or 7th or 8th when there's traffic and try to induce a double play, I think that's a smart move. The guy that Ali has been pulling on last 2 years for that is Andre Palante, who just unfortunately gives up too much hard contact for that to be a real solution. So Kittredge is your fireman or whatever you want to call that guy, your Seth Manis. From however many years ago.
However long ago that was.
And the Chaim Bloom factor, like we were already talking about, like this is a Chaim Bloom guy. This is a Rays guy who was acquired or who was a Ray at the same time. And, we brought Bloom in to advise on these kinds of things. And I bet he was very directly involved in this trade and maybe even helped it get through the gate. But it's all great.
I think if this trade was not with the Rays, everyone would be a lot more excited about it. It's just everyone is so worried about like, well, wait, if the Rays wanted Palacios, then shit, it's the next Rosarina. And you never know. Late career breakouts. Palacios could be the next Matt Carpenter or whatever, but like those are such different pedigrees of players.
Yeah.
Remember Arozarena was traded to get one of the top pitching prospects in baseball. Palacios is traded to get 1 year of a 34-year-old reliever coming off of Tommy John. So
Yeah.
as the perceived value here is very, very different. But anyway, the Cardinals need pitching. We have a glut of mid-level outfielders. They want that they are indicating they want to win in 2024. And while this may end up from like a true war numbers standpoint, they got 6 years or so of an outfielder who plays pretty good defense. Like, yeah, the Rays will probably end up on top of this one, maybe by a little, maybe by a lot. But for trying to win in 2024, which is what we want the Cardinals to do, this is a good move. And I'm excited to see Kittredge as a Cardinal.
Right. Yeah. Fully agree. It would be easier if he wasn't if Palacios wasn't so gregarious.
I know,
and
that's
charming,
the biggest. Yeah.
And he's got the rec specs and he's just fun to
Always
watch.
a good look. Yeah.
Yeah. But
and like if you watched a lot of games last year, like we did, even when it sucked, he was like one of the only fun parts of the last 2 months of the game or of the season. So it's like it sucks to trade that sort of personality, but it is what it is. So
it is what it is.
All right, let's talk a little bit. We kind of mentioned it before, but there's been some reporting over the last week as well about the sort of current state of the business with the Cardinals. I don't know. Will you kind of walk through this real quick?
Yeah. I think I'll read the quote and then we can talk about it after that. But in an interview with John Denton, MLB.com, and Bill DeWitt, Bill DeWitt said, and this is to regards spending more money, where the team is, are they going to add anything, so on and so forth. Bill DeWitt says, "Look, I think we're always open to improving our club within reason, but we've already made some big moves. With payroll, it has to be thought of in context of the whole business, with all the investments we're making and other aspects of the product on the field. So we are making a pretty big push by raising payroll and having revenues somewhat challenged," which I'm editorializing that is such a joke to me. Back into the quote. "It's actually quite a commitment. Now, is there a little more room there? It depends on the deal." End of quote.
Revenues somewhat challenged is such a funny statement. So yeah, you can there's a lot of different ways to interpret this, and there's also is there gamesmanship in this too? We've seen Mozeliak come out and say one thing in an interview, and then literally like an hour later pull off a trade or a move that is 100% counter to what they just said. You don't often get that from the ownership level. They're not usually out there giving
playing games.
Playing games and giving Mr. X. And what does it mean to say there's still room if we need it, etc. There's a lot of ways you could sort of walk back all of this, or it could all end up kind of being like a nothing burger type statement from Bill DeWitt, but it's being rightfully sort of roasted too, because it's just such a frustrating thing when payroll has maybe gone up a little bit, but not really. And we know where the Cardinals sit in the broader scope of baseball and where their payroll, I think right now, the payroll is projected something to be around the 15th or 16th highest payroll in baseball. And yet, as we talked at the beginning of the episode, we're top 5 in attendance, which is a huge driver of revenue, and the industry is a money printing machine. Besides all the revenue, the governmental tax breaks and whatnot that they receive, the priority they receive, it's it's bullshit, frankly.
Yeah.
But we rant about this a lot on the show, but we don't often get as much like red meat straight from the Cardinal ownership.
Yeah.
And I'm cautious to go just continue to rant like this, but it is frustrating. It is annoying, and it feels. Well, I will say this: I would at the opening day of the 2022 Cardinal season when Bill DeWitt came out on the field they do that big procession.
Right.
I took a lot of joy in booing him as loudly as I could. I was the only one in my section I could tell that was doing that, but like these guys are not our heroes. They could all be so much better for the sport than they are.
Yes.
And I understand that they are business owners and they want to run it like a business, but I believe in a better state of the game would be to find owners who their priority is not the profit margin of their organization.
I mean, to me, it's just it like, well, I have so many comments, but if you say you're going to increase payroll, like increasing it, I think they're currently at $5 million. That's the payroll change from last year to this year.
Yeah.
They're sitting at 158 million right now. They were 153 last year. I guess technically they're right, which that is the best kind of being right, is technically.
Hey, technically correct. It's the Heininger way.
Right. So good for them. And the thing that drives me nuts is when they almost put on this hat of like, I am the steward of the game. I am the one bringing these people together. I am anointed on some level, and I am doing my civic duty, so on and so forth. Well, it's really that's just absolutely not true. You're in the right place at the right time with the right amount of money. And the Cardinals have been an institution in St. Louis for over 100 years, and you happen to be the guy with the hat on in this block of time. So that all annoys me. But the other aspect, we just know there's not a cash problem. And when he is quoted, like to me, he's alluding to improvements to Ballpark Village, other real estate holdings that might improve his portfolio around the ballpark. Like, we don't care about that. I could never care about that. It's not like you're saving the city of St. Louis. You're just lining your pocketbook. It has nothing to do with anyone other than you. So this
yeah, well, we have a lot of studies now to show that just like the mere existence of a very nice stadium and things around it does not like inherently improve a city's tax generation or anything like that. That was the lie we were all sold from like the 90s all the way through until very recently, when cities have finally sort of caught on and stopped giving these like absurd tax breaks to sports leagues. And MLB is one of many that are doing this.
Right.
But yeah, they like the way that they talk to us as if we're supposed to care about their profit margins, when it's like that is so far. Like, there's not a single fan that cares about the St. Louis Cardinals being profitable. Now, winning leads, we all like to think that winning leads to more profit, but like, it's obvious when like the Cardinals were not in on Yamamoto because the $30 million it would cost to pay him to pitch for the Cardinals will not be recovered from the games that the additional games that he will win. Right. So it is a net loss. And that's why we see the Cardinals doing these smaller deals and never going big into the market, because it's never a financially sound decision. But teams that actually have ownerships that just want to win and don't just hope to win, understand that like you can do both.
Yeah. Well,
maybe your profit margin is slightly lower, but your team competes for a World Series every year. Shouldn't you want that as an owner? Like, that's the shit that drives me crazy. Like, there's so many rich people who would love to own a team and actually care about it and actually try to win and not care about, making profit. Like, I don't know how we get there, but like, we should get to a point This is purely, Star Trek utopian bullshit that I know is not how the world really works. But like every team should seek to be basically flat. We make as much money as we spend, and just be about having the best sport. But they don't.
Yeah.
They care about
Well,
wealth generation.
if that was the case, you'd also see the Yankees and Dodgers running payrolls of like 500 million, and I'm not sure how other teams would feel about that. But I get
sure.
what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying. Yeah.
You want a league of Steve Cohens, a league of owners.
Well, and that's when you put it that way too. Steve Cohen should be in prison. So it's like, there's no ethical billionaires. That's part of the problem of this whole thing.
But what it really comes down to is just like, don't say it. Just shut up. Just like, I don't want to hear it. It is the team is something that we all get to share. I do think that there is some like a civic duty that comes along with it. And if that is not where your interests lie, just shut up, I guess. Like, you have nothing else to say that I could care about. But here we are.
Well, what a positive note. We said it a couple weeks ago. It is crazy to think that like we have all of these problems with the DeWitts, and we also acknowledge that comparatively speaking, one of the better ownership groups in baseball, which is a low bar to jump. So
I've already complained about John Henry this episode. Yeah. Many of them are bad. And unfortunately, we all really love the game that they happen to own a fraction of. But that's okay. It'll be fine.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about before we go into the break?
Yeah, just one last thing. Tommy Edman, Cardinals utility player, center fielder of the future, maybe. Shortstop, second baseman. I don't know, whatever. Switch hitter.
You know him. Tommy Two Bags.
Tommy Two Bags underwent arthroscopic wrist surgery in October, which we just learned about. So good news, bad news, I guess. The good news is that he's got this done. He should be showing up healthy and on time for spring training. And, maybe it explains where his bat went towards the end of last year, dealing with injuries. Obviously, the Cardinals were just beat to hell at the end of last year. He dropped his WRC plus by over 15 points in that time period and just really didn't have much power. So I think this is good news.
Tommy One Bags.
Tommy One Bags. Tommy, please walk me. Bags. Nailed it. But this is good, right?
Tommy, please walk me. Bags. Yes. Yeah, by all accounts, he's going to have a full recovery and entering into the season healthy. And I mean, everyone is the organization has said multiple times at this point that he is the starting center fielder going into the regular season. So barring any sort of unforeseen change, like we're getting a lot of Tommy in center.
It is so crazy that he stole the center field job away from Dylan Carlson. Yeah, but that's where we are.
Yep. Well, I would say, stay healthy. He stayed healthy, but apparently not. But he just stayed healthy enough to keep playing. And when you're actively trying to lose games, who knows? In September, he might have been saying like, "Hey, coach, my wrist hurts," and they're like, get out there anyway.
We ain't got nobody else.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm hopeful that the recovery's good and he comes into 2024 strong and ready to play. I mean, a healthy Tommy Edman is so much fun. I know we have had sort of a up and down.
No, we love Tommy Edman.
We love Tommy Edman.
His value is so easy to see on the field and to calculate in real time.
Yeah.
It is clear. And it is present and is in front of my mind at all times.
Yeah.
Tommy, come back.
Tommy, come back. Tommy, come back. Ooh,
that was.
I don't even know what it was.
Was that what you're doing?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Sick.
Yeah. My mixtape's coming out in a week.
Check out Argo on Spotify.
Yeah. Ben Affleck.
We got a song with Victor Scott. VS2? Is that what, can we call him VS2?
Sure. I think we can call him whatever we want. VS2.
I don't know about that, but
yeah. VS2 works.
Okay.
Cool. Well, we've got more stuff to talk about. The hot stove is starting to heat up again. But before we do, we want to remind everyone that this show is listener supported on patreon.com. Patreon.com/talking about birds. If you enjoy the show and want to show your support, as I said last week, maybe you in the new year, you're looking to support more creators, local creators, people who are doing the sort of content that you like, consider joining the patreon.com/talking about birds. We've got tons of different tiers with different benefits, but patrons of every level get access to the Bird Scored. That is our private Discord server. I mentioned it earlier. We're planning our first Talking About Birds movie night, which I think is going to be a lot of fun. And we have some ideas for other things we can do. Also, the fantasy baseball season will be kicking up here too. So we'll get that going again. I have to defend my title. Ben is shaking
I can't
his
believe
head.
you won the lead. Like, that's so lame.
Come at me. We'd love to have some more people in it next year to be stepped on. And
You suck.
some of the higher levels, we've got our t-shirts, and you get one free. They're really, really cool shirts. So check that out. And patreon.com/talking about birds. Otherwise, if you want to support the show, consider leaving us a review on your favorite podcast platform. I know it's not the most exciting thing to do, but it only takes a couple minutes, and it really does help. And we really, really enjoy reading them. So thank you to everyone who has already. Ben, where else can people find us online?
5 stars only, by the way, if you're giving nothing less than 5 stars. You find us on Twitter at Talk About Birds. We are on Instagram at Talking About Birds. We got a TikTok. Come look at our faces and my tie-dye shirt on TikTok if you want to do that. We're on Spotify. You can review and listen and add to playlist our shows on Spotify if you prefer to listen there. You can email us any questions or thoughts or concerns to talkaboutbirds@gmail.com. You can find all of that information at talkingaboutbirds.com. And of course, I implore you, I beg you, I push you to call us at 848-48-BIRDS. Again, that is 848-482-4737. Call us, text us. Hit us up. It's the interaction is so much fun. We really, really enjoy it.
Yeah. If you call it, it'll ring for a minute, and then you'll get to a voicemail. You'll hear my stupid voice. Leave us anything, questions, comments, something you want us to discuss on the show. Any of that would be great. You can also text us if you don't want to call. We'll take that as well. And I wanted to give a shout out. We received a very, very nice text message from Lacey, one of our new patrons, who just shared some nice words that we're embarrassed to say on the show, but they mentioned that they really bonded with, they really became a fan of baseball, and really tie it to their relationship with their grandfather. It's sort of a generational thing in their family. And I think that's wonderful. I always think it's interesting to hear how people became fans of the Cardinals. Remember, we used to do the spark bird thing. We haven't had anyone new on the show for a little while to talk about what their spark bird is, but Lacey, if you can think of what your spark bird was, the cardinal that got you into the Cardinals, I'd love to hear it. Or if you want to call and text us, tell us what your spark bird was. We'd love to hear it. And I don't know, Ben, it made me think, our shared grandpa, our mutual grandpa, someone that, is super important to us in our lives, huge Cardinal fan. And some of my fondest memories with him are talking about baseball or watching baseball.
Every single time I would see him, he'd slip me a $5 bill and ask me how I thought the Cardinals were going to do.
Yeah.
So we relate to that very, very, very closely and very dearly.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for sharing that with us, Lacey, and thank you for your kind words. And 848-48-BIRDS.
848-482-4737. Get to act like we're real radio guys there.
I know. It's the morning zoo. Let the lid out.
That was cool.
Yep. All right, let's run through some of the news and notes that happened over the last week around the league.
We got a lot, Nate, so I'll try to get through these quickly because things are happening. The Cubs finally made a move. We
Yes.
don't have the exact dollar amount. I was just Googling it right before I started talking about this. Final numbers aren't out yet. It looks like it's pending physical, but Shota, Imanaga, and the Cubbies have agreed to a deal. The deal seems to be at the very least 2 years. The AAV of said deal looks like it's going to be $15 million. And there seem to be a lot of escalators attached to this deal. I've seen that it could max out somewhere around $80 million. But more details to come after the physical and everything like that is done. But yeah, the Cubbies strike. They get a guy who this might be a pretty good deal for them at that price point. And I mean, if you go back and look at what Imanaga has done in MPB, obviously he's older than Yamamoto, who just got the bag of all bags. But he had some better numbers. He had more strikeouts. He racked up a ton of innings. He doesn't walk people. We'll see the transition. It's always hard to predict exactly what it's going to look like from NPB to MLB, but it's it's a move you don't love to see from a Cardinals fan perspective.
No, it's actually kind of frustrating. So this is 2 years in a row where there's been like one move that I've really wanted the Cardinals to do that I thought was maybe somewhat reasonable. And last year it was sign Cody Bellinger to a 1-year deal. And then this year it's signed Shota Imanaga. If you remember going into the offseason, Imanaga was the guy that I thought was like the actual realistic target from the MPB that like fit right into exactly what the Cardinals are looking for. And then obviously as the offseason progressed, it became clearer and clearer that that wasn't going to happen. But it's particularly disappointing that it's the Cubs. I also read it has been reported that Imanaga had multiple offers on the table, some of which doubled the overall guarantee that he's getting from the Cubs, but he chose the Cubs. Why anyone would do that, I don't know. But that's annoying as well. So it's annoying across the board. I'm not looking forward to him being a good starter for the Cubs. That said, if there's one thing the Cardinals can do really well, it's typically hit left-handed pitching, and the Cubs lineup or rotation is looking very left-handed heavy right now. So I'm hoping that this at least works out in the Cardinals' favor, where we can go and crush them at Wrigley and at Busch all year.
Yeah, I wonder if the Seiya Suzuki factor is what
maybe
made that happen. Maybe we'll learn more as once this deal actually gets finalized and everything like that. But agreed on all fronts. More annoying news this is just bad for all baseball fans, but here it comes.
All baseball fans,
except for Dodgers fans. The Dodgers sign another free agent. A 1-year deal, $23.5 million for outfielder Teoscar Hernandez. I am shocked that he only got 1 year. A lot of this money is deferred, of course, making it even more cost effective for the Doyers out in LA. And, this guy's got a very powerful bat, and you could expect the Dodgers to find the best way to deploy him and Jason Hayward and Mookie Betts and Josh Outman, and probably be really great for them. So, good for Dodgers fans, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a pretty good move. He had all good years with the Mariners, but his last two, he's been kind of declining with them a little bit. And so I think that's where you're getting the 1-year deal, sort of the pillow contract. He's hoping to regain his value. And, the Seattle's ballpark is one of the worst offensive environments in baseball. And even though they generally have had, they've got like Julio and some of these guys that really stand out as offensive players, it is a tough ballpark to hit in.
Right.
And Dodger Stadium is not. So it should be a good move for him. And then obviously he gets to hit behind Ohtani, Betts,
the best
Freeman.
1, 2, 3 of all time.
So if you're looking for that 1-year deal to regain your value, it's pretty good. And then also just $23.5 million is pretty good as well. So pretty smart for everyone. And I think it's going to be annoying when he is really good for them again.
Yeah. Mets make a couple of moves. They have officially signed Harrison Bader to be their center fielder. That's a $10.5 million deal. They have also signed left-hander Sean Manaea for a 2-year deal worth $28 million.
Yeah. I mean, obviously in baseball money, it's nothing, but good for Bader getting the bag, $10.5 million. So
Yeah.
he's, he already had made a little bit over through arbitration and whatnot, but it's a pretty good chunk of change to see how he does with the Mets. Since it's the Mets, I assume it's just going to somehow collapse, and it's just like,
yeah, I really hope not. I would really love to see Bader play 150 games.
yeah.
The Mets they're obviously they're focusing on defense and improving what they look like out there. And Bader's from New York, so I bet that's super, super fun to be able to play at home. You make $10 million, and but it's all about health. I just want him to stay on the field as long as he can.
Yeah, and the Manaea deal. It's
kind of
interesting.
Shocked he got that much money.
Yeah, 228. We continue to talk about these boring deals with Lynn and Gibson, and it is like, what would you rather have? 1 year of Lynn at 11 or 2 years of Manaea at 28? And I do keep going back to, well, I'd rather have the, Lynn and Gibson side of it. And so, we want to give credit where credit is due. Obviously, we'll see how it goes on the field. If those guys bomb, if Lynn and Gibson suck, then we'll have totally different answers. But as we stand right now and you're just viewing the options on the board, like, it does seem like it was smart for the Cardinals to go and get Gibson and Lynn at the price that they did.
It does. It's well, that's why they play the game, is it? But it is feeling smart, which I kind of hate, but whatever, it's fine.
Well, not to keep beating a dead horse, but our point has never been that those are bad signings. Our point is that they need more.
Yeah.
Right. And so two things can be true. Right. So
Cardinals could still trade for a starting pitcher, which nothing stopping them from doing that other than, will and determination.
Have you seen the stuff on Cease? Like what they're looking for him? Yeah. I mean, I think the Cardinals should do something like trade for him, but what the White Sox in particular are looking for Cease, I could understand why you might balk at it.
Yeah, and you look, and Chris Getz he's really got the new GM there. He's really got a mountain to climb with the last rebuild essentially falling so flat.
Yeah,
I cannot believe how poorly that went. But the Chris Sale trade never really paid off, and it just never really came together. So it makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised if Reinsdorf is in Chris Getz's ear saying, like, we cannot do this again. Like,
if you're going to trade him, this needs to be a trade where everyone says, holy shit, I can't believe the White Sox got that much. And if it's not that, then just keep him.
Yes. And I imagine Reinsdorf wants the White Sox to be in the playoffs one last time before, he's really getting up there. We've talked about the secret sauce in any ownership group is how much longer does the owner have? And I wouldn't be surprised if Reinsdorf is there here, in the next year or so. But we'll see.
We want our owners to either be moral humans or near death. Either way, you tend to get to the same result.
I know and unfortunately with the Cardinals, there's generations of DeWitts. So it's not happening here.
Yeah, there's too many of them.
I think we just came on the solution. Then there's too many of them. We need to fix that.
Your words, not mine. We need to get them interested in other fields.
That's what it is.
What it is.
Yeah, they need to have like an artist kid or something like that. Go focus on other things.
Put out an album with Victor Scott and Adam Wainwright.
The Mariners have traded Jose Caballero, who's a sterling defensive second baseman, to the Rays for slugging Luke Raley, who I don't know if you saw this, Nate, but he got the call while he was on his honeymoon, and he was playing a pool volleyball and apparently dominated the game. Hopped out of the pool and found out he had been traded from the Rays to the Mariners. I think it's a pretty interesting trade. It's pretty low level. But it seems like the Mariners, they're filling out their outfield all of a sudden, and the Cardinals aren't helping them do that.
Yeah. That's a good point. I also think like if you're playing any sort of extracurricular sport with a Major League Baseball player and you're not being dominated
Yeah.
100% of the time, like what's happening? I can't imagine doing any sort of semi-athletic thing with like, oh, it's a bunch of bros, we're all a bunch of people all hanging out at a pool, we're gonna play volleyball, and then a fucking Major League Baseball players also in there. You're like, it just has to feel like
Yeah.
unwelcoming.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And
it's an interesting trade.
Luke
Yeah.
Raley had a break. He kind of broke out last year. He's power speed combo, big dude.
Yeah.
And Caballero, he kind of fell off offensively, but he can run. He can
He's
play.
fast.
He can play
Yeah.
defense. Yeah, we'll see what happens. And a far more interesting trade, Jerry DiPoto just going ham in the new year. I love this one. And I don't know if you noticed this, but there was a so the trade really quick. It was Robbie Ray is now a Giant. The Giants send Mitch Haniger and Anthony DeSclafani up the coast to Seattle. And an interesting tidbit is that Robbie Ray had in his contract that if he was traded in the first 2 years, he was given a $1 million relocation payout. And Jerry DiPoto waited 4 days after that expired to trade Robbie Ray, which is funny to me.
I saw that.
But I mean, I have to like this for the Mariners, and I really don't understand what the Giants are doing here.
Well, I'm assuming the Giants are just really banking on a Robbie Ray bounce back. He only threw 3 innings in 2023. His last, he threw 189 in 2022, but
didn't look that good.
Yeah, he put up 1.7 F4. I mean, he had an XFIP of 3.58 that year, so he had some of his results were not as good as his performance, but his last real good year was 2021, where he was very good with the Blue Jays. And so, the Giants traded 2 guys that they've had for a while, but also have like not completely put it together for them either. So with DeSclafani and Haniger, so it almost felt like, 2 teams are sort of trading parts that like they just don't want to have anymore, either from injury or ineffectiveness or whatever. And so the Giants are banking on that bounce back from Ray, and I guess we'll see if it happens.
Yeah, I mean, is it possible those tight pants that Robbie Ray wears, was just alluring to Farhan? I mean, maybe was he just transfixed?
Yeah, we don't talk about the allure of tight pants in trade negotiations enough. So might be.
But it's interesting. I also obviously I look at everything through a Cardinals lens. The Mariners, currently have 7 legitimate starting pitchers that probably should be starting every week right now. Is this signaling? Are they going to flip DeSclafani? Are they going to send Brian Wu or Bryce Miller out? Emerson Hancock is kind of looming. But yeah, I don't know. The Mariners have been they're always interesting. Jerry DiPoto is a madman. But they've added Mitch Garver, Mitch Haniger, Luke Raley, Luis Urias to their offense and added some pitching depth that they're looking. I don't know. They're looking good. I like their moves is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Well, I do wonder, are they just like, so Haniger, he was a Mariner for quite a while. But he was really rough for the Giants last year, negative 0.2 F4 over 229 plate appearances. And then he was not great in his last year with the Mariners, but back in 2021, he was really good. He was 39 home runs, 110 runs, 100 RBI. Like, he was a good offensive player. So are they just like nostalgic for the old Haniger? Do they think that there was something they could fix for it, bring him back and make him what he once was? But like from the outside looking in, it's like, man, you just traded for a guy who's been declining for years.
But they got out of that Robbie Ray salary, which I think is huge.
Yeah, true. That's where I was saying it felt like two teams just sort of like dumping
Yeah.
different parts to each other, and the Giants are more willing, who are generally good at pitching as well, like
Yeah.
developing pitching. Like the Giants, I think, have a better shot at winning this trade. It wouldn't surprise me if Ray is an effective pitcher in 24.
Oh, I disagree fully. Let's track that. That'll be a fun. I don't know how we'll track that, but let's
It's
track that
impossible
as a
for us
season.
to be able to track it.
Well, I mean, I don't know how you. Well, yeah, we'll track. Yeah, okay. Shut up. I think Haniger and DeSclafani will outperform.
You
Bobby
shut
Ray.
up.
You shut up.
You shut up.
And the Braves do more Braves things. We talked last week, big trade they made, Vaughn Grissom for Chris Sale. And we were thinking, what's happening here? 1 year Chris Sale, why not? And then the Braves basically immediately after we were done recording turn around and they signed Chris Sale to an extension, 2 years, $38 million, and then they'll have an option for a third year, which pays, I think it's somewhere around $20 million. I didn't write that down. But they're going full in on the Chris Sale. They're betting on the bounce back, betting on the health.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's interesting. What would you rather have, Sean Manaea for 2 years for 34 or Chris Sale 2 for 38?
Yeah, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. Right. So it's a pretty good deal for the Braves, assuming he is able to pitch. Because if he's healthy, he will pitch well generally.
And like the Braves are in this kind of like Chris Sale is the opposite of Kyle Gibson, right? Kyle Gibson gives you a shitload of bad innings or of fine innings, below average innings. Chris Sale gives you like 100 of some of the best innings you can get. And it's just, making that calculation and you have the kind of team that can, work with that and keep
if Chris Sale can pitch game 3 of a playoff series, it's probably worth the $18 million alone.
Yeah. Stupid Braves.
Yep.
This piece of news is just, it's mostly for me, but it's for Cardinals fans, I suppose. Dakota Hudson signs with the Rockies. I know there's some ribbing of this deal in the Birds Court. I know. This is, the Rockies. I don't think there could be a worse landing spot for Dakota Hudson.
Well, I mean, that's it. Any pitcher who signs with the Rockies, you're just generally going to say this is the worst place that they could have landed. But Dakota Hudson seems particularly poorly aligned to pitch in the Rockies.
The number one thing you can't do at Coors Field is walk people. Because you're going to give up hits, you're going to give up home runs, you're going to give up extra base hits. It's just going to happen. I watched so many games there. It's just how it is. The outfield is big, the ball flies. That's how it goes. And now Dakota Hudson, who's walking like 5 or 6 per 9, and then also tends to get hit hard. Just, maybe Buddy Black, he can whisper to some pitchers sometimes. He made Kyle Freeland bounce back a little bit, and he's done some interesting things. Maybe there's a Buddy Black factor in there, but yeah, I don't know. It'll be nice to be in the same city with Dakota again, I guess. I got that for me. Yeah.
Yeah. Just like of all guys that the Rockies could go and sign, I'm like, what? Why Dakota Hudson?
Yeah. Poor guy. Michael Brantley has decided to retire from baseball. I love Michael Brantley. I think he's great. I don't think he's a Hall of Famer, but he is close. A Hall of Very Good. I was reading a stat earlier today that I think he was playing baseball for about 15 years. He had 206 strikeouts without swinging while looking, and 62 of those balls were actually out of the zone and bad calls by the umpire.
Wow.
And for a player with 15 years under his belt, that's just absolutely insane.
Yeah, so he retires with, 6,149 plate appearances and a 298 batting average with a 117 WRC plus. Total WAR 28.8, so kind of not even really close to Hall of Fame, but really good, and just someone that's been a big part of the league for a while now on some really good teams. And who doesn't love a guy who can maintain a high average? A 300, basically a 300 average over the last 15 years of the league is very, very rare.
Yeah.
So, fun type of player.
Not bad. Last bit of news: the Miami Marlins have hired Rachel Balkovec as their farm director. She is the first female in MLB to hold such position. So shout out to Rachel.
Yeah,
kind of crazy. It's happening.
She seems great. And we always, what we say with these sorts of things is it's taken too long, but it is great that it is happening.
And just funny for the Marlins to fire the first ever female GM and then go hire the first, but
try not to like overthink that and overplay that, because
it doesn't really matter. Those two people have nothing to do with each other, but just the 30,000 foot view is
funny. Yeah, it is funny. But yeah, she seems incredibly impressive. So hopefully, I'm like so torn on how to feel about the Marlins. It's like I want to like the Marlins, but they've also done so many stupid things that like it sort of stops me from really liking them. But
It always comes back to ownership. It always comes back to ownership.
It really does. Yeah.
That's all I got, Nady.
Well, we're in the back half of the hot stove at this point. So I think there's still a lot of big names out there. So who knows what'll happen over the next few weeks.
We do our remaining free agent draft when spring training starts, right?
That's what we did last year.
Okay. Yeah.
I was thinking about that too. Yeah. We'll see. Generally speaking, people like to have their pitchers signed before, spring training really starts. So I'm expecting most of the big names left are pitchers. Yeah. And I'm expecting most of them to be signed in the next, couple weeks.
I think I wouldn't be surprised if Snell and Montgomery are signed by the time we chat next week.
Yeah. Yeah. There's been a lot of movement, a lot of discussion on Snell right now. Seems to be the perceived number one still on the market.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's wrap this up with a little game. Ben, we haven't played this one for a while, but I think it's one we both like. We're returning to talking about words.
Oh, no.
Words.
Words.
Forgot about this song.
Words.
Words. Words. Words. Words. Words. Words. Words. That's our old theme song from the long ago.
Yep.
That's just a slight alteration to make it fit the game. So this is talking about words. I have a list of baseball slang that I have pulled from the same list I used last time. It's from routine.com. It is the Bible of baseball slanguage. Okay. So I've got a piece of baseball slang. I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you 4 options and you have to tell me which one is the real one.
All right.
Okay. So a duck fart. Is a duck fart a bunt that drops straight down? Is it when the ball bounces off a player's butt? Is it a pop out to the pitcher? Or is it a soft floater that lands in between the infielder and outfielder?
I don't know why. I don't know where the etymology comes, but it's D. It's a soft liner. But I have heard that before, I believe.
Yeah, I had heard this one too. I think I don't know. It's just like, it just looks like a little duck fart.
I mean, just saying duck fart is fun. So maybe it's like it just caught on because it's fun.
Yeah. Yeah, you got it. It is a soft floater that lands in between the infielder and the outfielder.
That's right.
Okay. What is hot coffee? Is it a September call-up that goes particularly well? Is it when an outfielder bobbles a hard-hit ground ball? Is it a nickname for a new player that needs to do the coffee runs? Or is it going first to third particularly fast?
Wow, I don't know. I don't think I've ever heard this one. What was A again?
A September call-up that goes particularly well.
I don't think it's that. I mean, maybe like they call it a cup of coffee, obviously, when you come up. Hot coffee. I mean, hot coffee. It's kind of like it's kind of redundant. Like coffee's hot.
No, cold brew. There's like a whole industry of coffee that's not hot.
Yeah, but like baseball terms come from like 1,000 years ago. They weren't making cold brew whenever this was coined. I
I wonder when was cold. You think for a second. When did?
Yeah. So yeah, I really don't know this one. This is a tough one. I am going to go with B. Just kind of sort of makes sense, and I could like the person's kind of juggling it. I don't know. I'll go with the outfielder, fielding the ground ball and failing.
You got it, Ben. It is when an infielder bobbles a hard hit ground ball like a hot coffee.
Yeah.
Is what the
I was thinking like hot potato, hot.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Also, the first evidence of true cold brewed coffee made with cold water comes from Japan, Kyoto style coffee, named for its popularity in Kyoto, Japan, is the earliest record of cold brewed coffee. It's clear that the Japanese were brewing coffee this way in the 1600s.
Wow.
Although the record prior to that is unclear. So,
okay. Wow. Asked and answered.
Yep. One of my dumbest Googles, because I was talking to you and trying to type this. I Googled, when did cold brew get invented?
Idiot.
But it got me the answer. So
there you go. Hey,
who's wrong? Okay.
You Googled good.
I do Google good. All right. Landscaper. Is the landscaper the backup catcher? Is it a player that has a strong arm and can hit well? Is it someone who covers a lot of ground while running in the outfield? Or is it the rookie they make clean up after practice?
Wow. It's another one I've not ever heard. I'm going to say it's the fielder that can cover a lot of ground, just because that makes the most sense to me.
Nope. So this one, I will now read it in the way that they framed it because it'll make more sense. It is a player that has a hose and can rake.
Oh, that's funny. I like that.
They have a strong arm and they can hit well. They have a hose and can rake.
I'm taking that.
They are a landscaper.
That's mine now.
Yeah. You. What do you mean?
I coined that.
Oh, nice. All right. Let me put a little let me put Ben after it. Okay.
Thank you.
Nice work.
Yeah, I like that one. That's cute.
All right. Pocket monster. Is a pocket monster a small batter who absolutely crushes?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Is it a small vial of cocaine kept in your back pocket, forcing you to slide head first? Is it Big League Chew? Or is it when a back pocket is hanging out of your pants, forming a small ghost-like creature?
So my first thought was Jose Altuve. Now, that being said, I have heard a baseball story of guys sliding headfirst because they had a glass vial of cocaine in their back pocket. It would shock me to learn that is such a regular occurrence that it had a nickname. So I'm going to go with small player who rakes.
It is actually not. That was one that I made up because I like thinking of Jose Altuve. I actually had Altuve in parentheses in my little write up here. Calling Altuve a pocket monster is adorable.
Also, isn't Pocket Monster what a
yeah, he's a Pokemon. So Altuve. No, it is, according to this, when a back pocket is hanging out of your pants, forming a small ghost-like creature.
Wow. Okay. Didn't know that had a name. The more you learn.
I know. I suspect we'll see. Like when we did this game before last year, we did it with Kelsey, I think, and we said a bunch of like old timey shit. And then Chip Carey came in and said basically everything that we kind of laughed about. So I'm expecting we'll see a couple pocket monsters.
Well, you see it. From my understanding, players do it to change their luck. They had a bad first at bat, and then they leave their pocket out to change the vibe or whatever. But I've never heard it called that.
Yeah, me neither.
All right,
last one. Morning wood.
Okay.
Is it breaking your bat on your first swing of the day?
Yeah.
Is it an early game?
Mm-hmm.
Is it early morning batting practice? Or is it what your dirty mind is thinking about, you pervert?
Well, I mean, obviously it's what my dirty mind is thinking about because I'm a pervert. I'm going to say early batting practice because baseball players talk like that. children.
Yep, it is. Early batting practice is morning wood.
Of course it is.
So nice one. You got 3 of 5 correct.
Damn.
Not bad. So
Yeah. That's a fun guy. That one is fun. I just love hearing these.
Yeah.
Baseball's so weird.
Yeah, this I want to like share this link with you, but also this is my source for this game. So I'm not giving you just, but there's so many of these. Like it seems to be relatively open source, so like I think anyone can really throw these up here. But like I've used it before, then I hear these things, and I swear I never heard them before. So I don't know. I there is like any industry, it's like these stupid languages form.
Yeah,
it's just
jargon and colloquialism.
Yeah. So Baltimore chop. That's the
Baltimore chop. Yeah.
So or a punch and Judy hitter was one that we had last time.
Punch and Judy,
you and I both didn't know about, and I've heard that phrase like 10,000 times since we talked about it on that episode. So
tools of ignorance.
Yeah. So I expect we'll see some pocket monsters, and hey, if we're lucky, a little morning wood. We'll see. What I might go to. We're talking about going to spring training this year.
Nasty ass.
All right. Well, that'll do it for this week's episode. Thank you, everyone, for listening. As always, shout out to the patrons and the Bird Scored. Patreon.com/talkingaboutbirds. If you remember, you can give us a call or text 848-48-BIRDS. And we'll be back next week. And until then, I'm just going to say go Cardinals.
Yeah. Hey, you know what? If you're listening right now, I'd just like to say that I love you.
You know what? Valentine's Day is right around the corner. Listener, would you be my Valentine?
Oh, my God. Hang up the call. Can we start recording?
Says Rourke on it.
Yeah, it's an athletics brand that I like. Athletics. It's something that you I don't know. You go outside. Sometimes there's a ball,
but but it's bright out there.
Oh, I know. It's scary that somebody might talk to you.
I only talk to microphones.
My name's Nate. I like to watch sports ball on the TV, but I can't play it because it's too scary.
Yeah.
My bones, my skin, my epidermis.
My bones, my skin, my epidermis. You know that card I hand out to everyone.
My bones, my skin, my epidermis.
I've got a rash.
My epidermis is itchy.
Yikes.
And red.
All right. Well, this sucks. This is a good start.
Oh, are you popping off your jumper?
Oi,
let me pop off my jumper.
Popping off me jumper.